what was the first business that you started at 14?
It was landscaping. So I had a job at a fair, and I don't know, my dad gave me Rich Dad Poor Dad like a week before, and I read that and I was like, why am I working this, job here? And it's nothing against it. It was just me personally.
Welcome to the Adriana Ostapenko podcast. I'm here with Tony. We actually met a few weeks back at a real estate virtual summit that Tony and I were both speaking at. Your session was very good around social media. I'm a social media fan myself, as you can tell. So it was awesome to listen to you. I right away just felt some alignment with some of the things you're bringing to the table and wanted to have you on a podcast to share more. I started this podcast because when I started investing in real estate a few years back, I knew nothing about investing. I knew nothing about real estate. And yet it's changed my life in so many ways, more than I can count.
Of
Since
course.
then, we've created numerous businesses and have grown and evolved over and over again. So if I can share and bring inspiration, education, information to anybody out there that allows it to change their lives, this is what the purpose of the podcast is. So I'm very happy to have you in. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, when we first met, I saw you were a hustler and we shared similar qualities. So, it's an honor to be here.
Amazing. Tell me about you. I'm kind of getting to know you with the audience, so looking forward to this. Tell me about you.
So high level right now, I run a few different ventures. I started in the public speaking space, motivational speaking tours sponsored by Dave & Buster's and Burger King. That platform gave me an opportunity to tap into a whole generation, which was the Gen Z. And, at these high schools, I saw a need to help them get jobs. There was no job board catered to helping them get opportunities. And that's when we created Jobify, which was meant to do that. Within 18 months, Jobify hit top 10 in the App Store for our category. And that was all through social media. That was $0 paid media. That was all through organic posting. TikTok was our content platform that we chose to use. And it did really well for us. With that came a lot of new opportunities, attention, and the team grew, resources grew, and I was able to get into some other stuff. Now I have my own investment firm that I recently launched. I invest in startups. I had an exit with the company I was a part of on a minimal level, but it was a good experience. And exit, for anybody without context, means like the company was sold and acquired and there was cash out from that. But yeah, now I have a artificial intelligence project we're working on called Pathway. It's spelled Pathway with an AI at the end, a little play on the word there. And it's a technology we're licensing to school boards to help students get into any career they want. So I've created an ecosystem for myself, and that's at a high level. I could obviously go into deep storytelling with each venture, but that's me.
I love it. Thanks for sharing. Obviously, I can see a theme here in the work that you do and impact that you provide. What brought you to where you are now? What's so exciting to you about the work that you do?
I think because I'm still relevant in age to a lot of these young people. Like I'm 25 right now, and I'm doing all of these different businesses, but it's because I started when I was young. My first business was when I was 14, and I had quite a journey over the last decade from playing Division I sports on a scholarship in the States to pursuing business full time. Like I've lived many lives, I always tell people. So it's been crazy. And I see the young people of today, some of them seem lost, right? Especially after the pandemic. And a lot of them don't know what they want to do. A lot of them need guidance. And me personally, I didn't have like an older brother. Like the kids call me Mr. Good Vibes. And that's like my stage name. But I didn't have that when I was young. So I said, what if I could be like an older brother to a whole generation and teach them certain things that I wish I knew when I was younger, or even better, create platforms they could use that I didn't have when I was younger. So I guess the motivation comes from the fact that I didn't have it personally, and I saw an opportunity to be useful in the world, and I took it.
I love that mission statement. I have two kids. They're 10 and 8. And obviously, as a mom, that's really top of mind for me. How do you inspire them to aim for more? I feel like at least speaking really personally to me, we live in a really blessed, abundant life. And I feel like sometimes I wonder if it lacks that, motivation to go pursue something. I myself have a very different story. Immigrated to Canada at 13, had my first job at 14, was out of the house at 18 and had to hustle. So that culture is within me and my story. Tell me, what was the first business that you started at 14?
It was landscaping. So I had a job at a fair, and I don't know, my dad gave me Rich Dad Poor Dad like a week before, and I read that and I was like, why am I working this, job here? And it's nothing against it. It was just me personally. I wanted to challenge myself a bit more and put what I learned into practice. So I said, okay, I'm leaving this job. I left the first day, and then I was like, okay, what do I have in the garage that I can use to make money? Because I'm not about to go, invent something at 14, or at least I didn't think I could at that time. But I was like, okay, landscaping is pretty easy. Just grab a lawnmower, knock on everyone's door and say, can I cut your grass? Can I cut your grass? And if I do that enough, someone's going to say yes. So it worked out. Someone said yes. From there, I got referrals. I upsold. So then I started doing like interlock, paving, sodding, all these different landscaping type, jobs. And I grew it into a real business. That was the first time I made serious money as a teenager. Touching 5 figures as a 14-year-old was pretty exciting. And that gave me my start. But I credit it to my father because he introduced me to Rich Dad Poor Dad. He put me in a sales job even before that, actually, where I was knocking door to door. So I was developing these skills. He put me in public speaking when I was 12. Like, he had a good roadmap for me that helped me out.
Was there anything that you felt was motivating you to pursue like business and making money besides the like opportunities that your dad gave you?
I think because I was playing soccer at the time and I was doing well with soccer. Like in here in America, I know you moved here later on in your life, but we have like, it's called the NCAA. So I don't know if you've ever heard of it. You might have, but okay, I'll give context. So in America, it's like playing high level sports before you go pro. And it's like the schools, the universities, they give you scholarships to attend. And if you play there, you have a real shot at going pro, at least here in America. And soccer was my first path. And as I was pursuing that, I was getting good attention from it. But I also found business very fun. So I didn't know which one I was going to do. I just knew closing a deal was more exciting to me than scoring a goal. And when I found that out, I was like, I think I love business more. And I was 14. So the motivation just came from loving the game. I didn't even have like a number I was trying to meet. I didn't have anything. I was just like, yo, this is fun. I want to close more deals.
I love that. I guess what I'm taking from that too is, and with your dad, is your, exposure to these different things that really allows you to get to know yourself more, which sounds like that's partially what you apply in your app, is giving this different opportunities to, teenagers to experience potentially different jobs. Tell me how you came up with Jobify and what is the impact that it has on their lives.
Yeah, so with Jobify, we were looking at ourselves and saying, okay, we speak to these students, but the thing is, we just speak to them with motivation, right? A lot of people do that. There's all these speakers who go to these schools and they just motivate the kids, this, that, but then motivation doesn't always last. It could be gone in like a week, if not sooner. I said, we need something practical. And the pandemic gave us an opportunity to adjust the business model. Instead of just being motivational speakers on these tours, it gave us time to take it back to the drawing board when our competitors were looking at the pandemic and saying, we'll wait till it's back up and we'll wait till events are live again. I said, this is time to, recalibrate. Like, let's figure something out. So we spent those 6 months that was like really heavy quarantine, and we built this app. And by the time we were back in the market, we launched it with the students and it was received really well. So our impact right now has been, hundreds of thousands of students who watch us, are in our community. There's an estimated like $20 million made in the first 8 months across our whole user base. Like we've had a good impact and we're only growing from here, but it's been fun. It's been fun.
I love it. For context here, so I'm assuming they sign up and they have, what is it, different job postings? So they put their resume up. How does the app work?
Yeah, so the first version was, we started with a swipe where they would be able to swipe on jobs and see kind of which ones they liked. From there, we saw the user experience wasn't the greatest. So we switched to just the list of all the jobs they could find as a teenager. So if they wanted to find retail, food and beverage, hospitality, whatever applied to being a teenager, usually it's minimum wage, entry level, right? Just get their feet wet. I'm not selling a dream here. I'm not saying they're gonna go work at Google at 14, but it's to get their feet wet. More importantly, though, adults might look at these jobs as, oh, it's just minimum wage, but the students look at it as, well, I'm saving up money now for piano lessons. I'm saving up money for university. the students really care about these jobs. So it's a matter of supply and demand, and they're willing to take these jobs. So that's what we made a list of. I think last time I checked, we were at about 50,000 jobs posted on the platform. This next quarter, we're going into 2024 with, we're looking to double that. So yeah, it's just expanding our reach, operating in new areas, reaching new people, and having more of an impact.
I love that. I know that as a 14-year-old, my first job was at McDonald's making $6.75 an hour. But, that's what paid for my new shoes and my new
There you
jeans
go.
whenever I needed to go shopping and if I wanted to go to a concert or something. So it does matter. And I love that it's geared and targeted to teenagers at that age. Tell me a little bit of pathway and what that's all about.
So Pathway is the next step in the journey. Jobify started, and we're revamping Jobify's whole user experience. Now there's going to be an entrepreneurial component similar to how when I was young, now I'm going to help them get into like side hustles. So if they're flipping sneakers, there's going to be tutorials. We're revamping the whole system. But Pathway is the career component. So it's an AI tool where they can go in there. If they're 15 and they have no idea what they want to do with their life, that's okay. You go in there, you say, I like math, I'm introverted, this, that, I hate this, I lack this, whatever. And we'll show you, okay, based on the system and what you've inputted, this is your best path forward. Here's what we recommend. Or if you know what you want to get into, here is what you can do to get into that career. So the local resources, maybe there's specific grants available, maybe there's certifications you need, maybe there's mentorship opportunities, like everything to get into a career they want, Pathway is supposed to be able to do. So highly sophisticated product. It's taking us quite a bit to develop, as you can imagine. And that's why it's not being quick. Like Jobify, we launched within a month. Pathway, it's already taken us several months just to get the back end sorted out. But when it comes to market, it's going to be very impressive.
I can imagine. You're also continuously building on the experience you already have. So that just gives you a huge advantage there. As an entrepreneur yourself, what would you say are the top challenges that you face and how you've overcome them?
Challenges. I think when I was younger, it was being taken serious. I mean, like anyone in their 20s starting a business, right? Like especially in tech, you're talking AI or whether it's venture capital, your own firm, whatever it is, like being taken. I don't even say my age too much, I'll be honest. Because like most times if I say I'm 25, people are like, get out of here, you're not 25. So I don't like.
So I'm 25. I gotta say you're lucky there because I know people that are nearing 40 and they look like they're 15 and it's a little bit harder. You have a beard. I think that's
Thank you. I try not to say it because I think age is one of those things. It doesn't really matter. It matters what you've done with the years in your life, right? Like I know people double my age who are still, I don't know what they're doing, right? But I know people half my age who've probably done more than me. I don't know. But age is just one of those things. It's a number. So I think when I was young, that was the biggest challenge. As you get more results and experience, obviously that changes. But the second struggle I would say is hard is people management. When I was young, I didn't fully understand how to manage. I mean, how could you, right? Like you're not used to managing people and being in charge of people's careers and their lives and all these decisions you have to make, you have to be right. So that was, there's stress management. The list goes on. I could go stress management, people management, like there's everything, but I wouldn't change it because it's the best game in the world. And it's the one game where you have complete control over your future and destiny.
So what are some things that you implement to keep yourself, moving forward, keep yourself, Mr. Good Vibes?
I think I like to do martial arts. So I'm going to choose my words carefully here. I approach business like war. And I don't want to say that in a combative way, even though I do think business is war. I think when you look at it and you approach it like a war general, there's people trying to take your clients. There's people trying to take the opportunities you want to get. Like it's competitive, right? And it's a dog-eat-dog world. And if you're not meant for that, it could eat you up. And that's just the way I approach it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just the way I've found successful for myself. But when I've approached it that way, I've aligned my hobbies and interests. Everything I do lines up towards, can it get me better at this game? So I do a lot of martial arts training because I feel like it helps me hone in on my discipline and it helps me meet other people who are like-minded and they approach life like war. And I have allies now who think like me. So anything I do has lined up with the game of business. Like it's what I eat, it's what I breathe, it's what I sleep. Like business for me is like my game. Like that's why I've started so young because I plan on having a really long run here.
That's fantastic. I can't say that I relate
No worries. Like I said, right? It's different people, different strategies, of course.
I remember, do you ever listen to Tom Billio?
I've heard of him and his stuff sometimes. Yeah, yeah.
He's shared similar things, like where how he like views business, and it's just very like I'm in it. I'm like, this is it. And he's like, I use like my anger, I use, competition. You use all these. And I wonder if it's a male female thing here or personality type. I'm not sure. But I love that ultimately you're honing into what works for you to feel you to keep moving forward. And I think that's the message, because to your point, everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to focus and zoom into something potentially different, but use it to your advantage, right? So intentionally to feel you forward. So that being said, and having like knowing the business is your game, what is your end goal here?
I want to operate a very successful hedge fund. So that's why I've started early with micro transactions here. We're not talking billions yet, but that's my end goal as I've acquired more resources for myself, different networks, different businesses, prove myself in the game. I've, noticed that a lot of people look at me and take me serious when I talk, or if I do something, or if I have a new project I want to involve people on, people answer the phone. So I've said, okay, if I keep building these successful businesses, because I'm very creative with how I want to approach my entrepreneurial career, I think I have a lot of inventions left in me. And I have it's called an idea icebox. Like I got my next 10 ideas lined up, but it's just that it was like Jobify, Pathway. I got this, that, but I just icebox it for now. And as I keep inventing these new things, I've had potential, acquisition offers and these discussions around, should I sell it now? Should I sell it later? We'll see. But I do know my end goal is I will run a successful hedge fund. It's going to be very powerful, very influential. I have the right allies in place. I have the strategies. I've proven I operate at a daily level to reach those levels of greatness. And I'm just confident in the fact that that's what I want to do, and I will make it happen. And it's going to be very fun watching the journey.
I love that because like, having this kind of clarity just allows you to zoom in and focus, and there's steps to the game, but you're intentionally going through them. What's kind of your mandate for your fund? What kind of businesses are you hoping to get involved with?
For me, it's going to come down to, like, I've started with technology and startups because that's the space I'm in. I operate startups. I know the landscape. I know founders. Like I could just zoom in and say if this makes sense or not. That's why out of 3 investments in companies, we already have 1 exit, which is pretty successful for any fund investing in any startup. Like usually the rate is 1 out of 20 startups are successful with an exit, and VCs just play a numbers game. So for us, because I'm an operator myself, I could look at the business model, the environment they're in, and I could say, does that make sense or does that not make sense? And who's the founder, most importantly? Like when I talk to you, can I believe in you as a founder? Am I going to invest in you and this money is going to go to parties in Mexico? Or are you going to sit there and approach business like war and say, as a war general, we have things to get done? And that's why I approach it like, I don't expect anything I don't do myself. So I think that's why when I invest in certain projects, I can look and say, that's a winner. Now, as we grow, I think it's going to turn into more of like public markets. We already have some holdings in the public markets. My buddy who's close to that game, like Wall Street type vibe, he's going to lead more of that. We're going to combine the two, and then we'll just start allocating money to anything that makes sense, really, whether it's public markets, private companies, real estate, this, that, and just allocate the money and grow it.
I love it. For the businesses that you're currently involved in, or for the one that you did an exit, can you tell me a little bit about what that journey looked like from investing in it? What did you implement to make the exit successful? And then what did the exit look like?
Yeah, it's all about the founder. It was a mid 7-figure exit. It was pretty early, like a year in, right? So this is a great turnaround. It was ad tech. It made sense. I come from a marketing background. They didn't disclose everything to the public. That's why I'm just watching what I say.
Okay.
But no, because they're like pretty small, right? And they were just like the people who acquired them. Just it wasn't like a huge PR thing. It was just I was one of those people they involved early. I had certain shares for certain pieces of responsibility, and when we took that company, what they did is they just said, okay, let's go to this other company. They're bigger. They're doing something similar. It just made sense as an acquisition. So I don't want to sound like I'm Nostradamus and I predicted the future, but I looked at the business early on. They asked me if I wanted in on it. I said, makes sense. Let's do it. kind of worked out the logistics. I was advising, throughout like that year. It reached certain milestones. They were doing well. They got acquired, took some of that money, reallocated it. Now I have a couple other things I'm doing. I have my own company. So it's one of those things, like I'm still young in the game, and that's why I don't want to speak like I already run a successful hedge fund. I don't. I know people who do, but I've taken baby steps while I'm building my other side of the journey to make sure this fund I'm building is built right and the foundation is proper.
I find so interesting. I think for entrepreneur, myself included, we look so far ahead, and we also dream so big and visionaries as well, that when we look at where we are now, we're like, wait, I'm not there yet. And there's a sense of like, I just haven't gotten there. I don't have enough to share, which is the furthest thing from the truth. How many 25-year-olds have been through, an investment and an exit? So it does bring a lot of value and information.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm approaching it humbly because I know the like I've sat in rooms where people are running billion-dollar hedge funds, and I don't want to speak like I'm there yet. But when I speak about my own businesses, I speak with confidence because I'm in that game and that's what I've built. This is like the hedge fund thing is a side project. GV Capital is something I'm building in the background. I don't talk about it much. It's one of those things I just do in silence because as confident as I may come off to certain people, I know when to be humble in other situations.
And honestly, nothing wrong with being humble. There's people that know even less, right? So, and this is why, like, I started a podcast because I realized I don't know everything. Far be from it. I'm evolving every single day. I'm getting better in my game every single day. But what I do know today will help somebody that knows, even less. And if I can share as I'm going through my journey, just speaking to what I know today and where I want to go. In terms of business itself, what do you think are the main key components that will make a business successful?
A business successful comes down to the systems. In my personal experience, you need the right systems in place to scale any business, from going from a solopreneur to an actual business, right? And a lot of people will say the same thing, and I don't want to regurgitate what everyone else has said, so I'm going to try and find something creative to say here. But yeah, I mean, when we look at the systems, I think it comes down to value. Something I like to measure with any business model is the dollar throughput. I'll repeat the term just in case people don't have context. Dollar throughput, meaning how fast can that business system create a dollar, and what systems are in place to create that dollar. So some business models might rely on a B2C, business to consumer routes, where they'll have to sell something on e-commerce and they're marketing on social media. Well, how fast from a social media post, something being posted, people come to your website, how fast is a dollar made, and how can you, increase that? So I look at these systems, I look at the dollar throughput, I look at the founder itself, I look at what are they doing on a day-to-day basis? What are they focused on? Do they know their weaknesses versus their strengths? What's the team look like? Like, as you know, there's so many things that can go into business and to making it successful. I think that's why entrepreneurs, in my opinion, are very important people in society, because we've gone through so many experiences, learning different skill sets that we could speak on so many different things. And the way we speak can really contribute to how we progress society, right? Like there's a lot of things we invent even that push society forward. And I don't even want to harp on my own efforts, but that's what I'm trying to do with, like, I'm focused on the youth space. I'm creating products right now while I'm still young that cater to them. And I would feel that that's pushing society forward for the next generation. My grandkids, possibly your grandkids, great grandkids, who knows, might use these tools. And when I look at a business, it comes down to the founder themselves, man or woman. I think that's the most important part. Aside from all the other things you can read in a business book, I think it comes down to the people involved. And I think a business is nothing more than just a bunch of people, great people, working towards a common cause.
I love that, especially like the amount of momentum that he gets built. When there's a clear vision, there's a clear leader, it just creates so much momentum. Do you always get involved, even with your own businesses? Are you always thinking of an exit strategy?
Most of the time, like I've been in talks with companies that are billion-dollar entities, right? Who have seen even my invention with Pathway. Like I've shown brief mock-ups, prototypes, and we already have deals lined up for a product that's not even in the market yet. Like people are signing up like, hey, can we just pay in advance? Just make sure we have access to this when it's launched. So I've gone from Jobify, which was a simple job board, but it was just marketed very well, So now an artificial intelligence tool that is sophisticated, probably the best in the market at doing what it does, first of its kind, revolutionary. People are willing to pay for it already. I don't want to say their name, but like a very big company is already talking about, listen, you build it to these points, like we'll acquire you in-house and just build it in-house and we'll help you even expand. So, because I don't want to say their name because it's still early, right? And I don't want to just put anything out there until it's happened. That's the kind of guy I am. But yeah, I mean, for me, I'm always thinking about the exit because I know there's so many ideas I have in this brain that I can't do all of them at once. So that's why I've strategically made one happen first. Now the next is happening. And then within the next 5 years, I have a whole plan. But yeah, I think about the exit because I know there's a lot I want to do.
Okay, I love that. Goes into the hedge fund model too. How do you add value? How do you create something, bring the value, exit, do it again, bring high returns to investors and to your team? You talked about your first app was marketed really well. What made that marketing effort go so well?
We understood our market. So if you think Jobify is a brand, jobs for teenagers, most companies, because this has been tried before, and no company has had as fast as growth as we have. And I say that humbly, it's just the numbers. So with everybody else, they approached it just like, yeah, we're a job board for teenagers and we operate in like one area. I've seen them. We did a lot of research before we launched Jobify. The one thing I saw with the teenagers we were marketing to is they wanted us to be everywhere. So how do you make a job board everywhere? Because it's very hard, right? To go from like one city to now you have jobs everywhere, across the States, across Canada, wherever. And we made it happen through, I can't give away all our secrets here, but we made it happen. And, we put the right systems in place to make it happen. And now we're operational across all 50 states, Canada, we're everywhere. We're across North America. And we post these jobs, but that was the first thing, supply. We needed to be useful to any teenager who might see us if we go viral. So I figured that out first. The next thing we did was, okay, we're marketing to these teenagers. Where can we market to them for free, essentially? TikTok was the only place to do that at scale. And TikTok we took seriously, and we got, millions of views on TikTok just through simple 10-second videos. And I actually wasn't the face of it. So sometimes founders, they want to be the face of everything, but you have to, that's why I think I have confidence, but I also have humility. And I think it's important. I know when to be confident. I know when to be humble. So I took myself aside and I said, you don't need to be the face of this brand right now. So I put Mr. Good Vibes in his own category. With Jobify, I brought in a girl, a lovely woman. She's beautiful, smart, can speak well, perfect fit for the brand. Brought her in. She was the face of Jobify, and she was the one talking to these teenagers. And she marketed herself well on the platform. And next thing you knew, like a week later, we had a video hit 1 million views, and we all looked at each other like, holy shit, it was crazy. The first time hitting that 1 million views. So after we saw that, we just 10x'd our efforts with TikTok, kept doing it, recycle, repeat. And it was just, growth from there. We're getting thousands of downloads a day, seeing ourselves charting on the App Store. And remember, we're not paying anything in advertising. We're just paying the girl, her hourly rate to come and join us, and perks on top, maybe buying her food, want to go on a trip somewhere, like whatever she wants, right? Just take care of her. And it worked out well.
That's amazing. Was she like doing the posting, or was she like the face, just, selling, speaking? What was kind of her role there?
I would give her things to speak on. I still led a lot of the strategy, and she would have input, of course, because like I said, she's very smart. She wasn't just the face. So I don't want to undermine her efforts. She was involved all around. It was just she was strategically placed as more of the face than any of us were, and she was great at doing it.
So I love that. I love the, again, strategy that goes behind that. Having a few businesses myself, I can't logistically be the face of everything, although there's always a temptation. It just feels easier sometimes. But on the flip side, it's just the messaging needs to be, uniform to an extent, and being able to leverage other people. So I like that. How do you keep work-life health balance?
I think I'm a bad person to ask for this. I was trying to think of it. I was like, should I come up with something here? I'll be honest. I don't take it as serious as I could. I don't know. Like you've heard me. I approach business like war, and I don't think there's balance in my world. Me personally, you're in a whole different position. You have a family, right? You got different responsibilities. I don't. I'm at the phase of my life where I'm kind of all in. I'm making it happen right now, and that's all I'm focused on. And it's at the expense of other things that could be happening, right? Of course, there's wonderful women I've met where I'm like, it would be amazing to settle down with her and just chill out a bit and maybe go on vacations more. But that's just not where I'm at in life, where I want to put my energy towards. And I know that could happen maybe 10 years from now, 5, who knows? Who knows? But I know right now I have a duty. I got stuff I got to take care of. I got to build the empire, right? I got to build the empire. And there's only one way to get there. I think you got to be all in sometimes.
Yeah. It's interesting because I did not have I wasn't in the position that I'm now at now when I was in my 20s. I was in a very different headspace altogether. I really got to where I am in my 30s. And this is going back to what you do with your mission on your apps and things, being able to touch point with people earlier on. Because I look back and I'm like, man, what I wish I had, you know, found the entrepreneurial path much earlier in my life. I ultimately ended up doing many jobs and didn't like any of them. I went from job to job to job and was just like, I'm meant to be at home or something because this is not working out. I thought there was something wrong with me. I didn't know that there was this whole other life that I was going to thrive in if I had had, I don't know, a light bulb moment at some point earlier on. Obviously, everything that I went through made me who I am today. So, no regrets necessarily, but I love the mission of how do you give, earlier, and not everybody's going to take this path, as some people just want to take on a job and be successful in the corporate world, and that's fair. But I love the idea of giving opportunity to teenagers and younger people to get involved in business. What would you say? What would you tell a teenager? What would be your top piece of advice that you would give a teenager that's wanting to pursue like the business world?
I get this question from them a lot because they're interested in business, but I feel like they just have no guidance. And that's why the entrepreneurial path, as you know, it's very hard. It's very difficult. I don't try to glamorize it. I let them know, like, I dropped out of school to pursue business. Like, I left my scholarships behind. It was fully paid education, housing, everything. But I said I could spend these 4 years at school reading textbooks that doesn't contribute to what I want to be in life, or I could spend those years networking, practicing, failing, getting better at this craft. And so by the time I'm something like 25, I'm in a much different position than if I would have stayed, right? And that's not to say drop out. I don't know who's going to see this. That's not what I'm saying. I think young kids, that's why I don't speak on it much, because young kids will look at me and say, well, he dropped out, mom. Like, I can drop. That's not what I'm saying. It's so hard. It's difficult. And I don't encourage it at all. Like, looking back, and still going forward, there's still so much I'm going to have to deal with. But even that first 3 years, it's extremely difficult. So the first thing I would say to these young people trying to get into entrepreneurship is understand what you're getting into and do it for the right reasons. First of all, like, a lot of them might just do it to flex on an Instagram post or put in their Instagram bio, like, entrepreneur, right? But I think I didn't get into it at 14 because I wanted to go to school and tell my friends I was an entrepreneur. I got into it at 14 because I wasn't being challenged in life, and entrepreneurship was the route to put my abilities to the test. And lo and behold, it worked out okay. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is try everything. So these young people, they're exposed to very little depending on the background they have with their families and school system. What I try to encourage is put yourself out there, go meet different people, go try different things, go work for free at some local marketing agency. Just try everything while you still have the time. And from there, you're going to see what do you like and what do you dislike. And maybe there's things you come up with by talking to different people and you have different ideas.
I think that's key. As I said earlier, because when you're telling your story, I'm like, the fact that you try different things and you're giving yourself exposure to all these different things, that's number one, because you don't know until you like experience it. Education, I mean, I went all the way to a master's degree, but there's only so much that you learn sitting in the classroom without going out there and experiencing the real world. Being able to, that's the best way to learn anything, is doing it yourself and experiencing and learning about yourself, self-awareness. What am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? What comes easy to me? What are my weaknesses? How can I do better? What do I want in life? All these things. The more you get clarity there, the more you can move forward. I love it.
100%.
I have one last question for you.
Okay.
If you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what message would you share?
It's good vibes. I think I got to be careful how I say this. I got in trouble the other, well, not in trouble, but there's some people disagree with me. So
I want to
I feel
hear
like
this.
because you got to be careful with everything you say nowadays. You know what I mean? So okay, I'll put it out there. I don't think you'll get mad. You seem like an intelligent woman. Obviously, you are. I don't think you'll get mad at my statement.
Tell me.
So I said the other day, I said, as a man, because I can only speak from the experience of a straight male in my position. That's the only experience I could speak on. I can't speak on any other experience. I said, I believe the way I've been raised, the way I've went through life, there's three things I found very important for any man that I preach to young boys about. First, nobody cares until you're making money as a man. You have to be useful. I believe this to be true. I think as a man, you got to be useful, right? And monetary resources are one means of that. The second thing, I said you have to be combat ready. You have to be physically competent and capable. You got to be able to defend your wife if there's an intruder in the house. Like, you got to be competent. I don't think I'm saying anything crazy here. And then the third piece was, after you've done that, I think, yes, don't be afraid to go court beautiful women. And I said these three things, and there was an uproar from some adults, but the kids loved it. And there was this whole thing around it. And I was just like, listen, I'm just calling it how I see it. This is the life I've lived. But overall, good vibes means, listen, do what you want in life. I hope you work hard to achieve what you want in life. This is the life I've lived. I've had to go through certain things and it's molded me. And that's why I preach the way I preach. But it's just good vibes. I hope everyone finds what they love and they work hard towards that.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. I think a lot what you said in terms, I appreciate that you're able to give such clear, tips to boys because they do need it. A lot. I think there's a generation, at least my generation grew up heavily without dads and not having the, impact and the opportunity to share like that, which regardless of today's society and where things are at, I do think these are things that are true and honest and transparent. So I
Thank
appreciate you
you.
sharing that. To me, Mr. Good Vibes is, like I think you're showing up in a positive manner wherever you go. You're showing up to provide value, to create an impact. And I think that carries through in your messaging and in your life.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I don't want to drag you into the controversy. So, it's just good vibes. That's all I've done. It's just good vibes for everyone, regardless of your walk of life, your beliefs, just good vibes.
Love it. Thank you so much, Ron. It was a huge pleasure meeting. Where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram, Mr. Good Vibes GG. GG is kind of like a gamer thing we say. It's like good game. Like it's a joke amongst the young community. So Mr. Good Vibes GG. LinkedIn is Mr. Good Vibes. I believe you type that in, you'll find me there. And yeah, two most active platforms I'm on. YouTube, Mr. Good Vibes. You type in Mr. Good Vibes everywhere, you'll end up finding me, but happy to connect.
Perfect. Reach out and make sure to subscribe so you can hear more about Mr. Good Vibes and all of our guests. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day, and we'll be talking soon.
You too. Take it easy.